Hello everyone, this is the lovely Miss Dime. This may end up being a two-part video depending on whether YouTube lets me upload a lengthy video, and this will be lengthy, I imagine, because I have a lot to say. I'm going to give a disclaimer. This may get a little emotional for me because I'm being very vulnerable at this point, and I do realize both black and white will probably be watching this video, and it's going to be sensitive to for no matter what race, and I don't at all intend to disrespect or undermine either race. But what I don't tolerate is bigotry, hatred, and racism on either side, black or white. The only time I have ever spoken against a white person is when racial slurs or things were directed at me or my friends. I don't have these interactions in my day-to-day life. As I've said in my earlier video, the area that I live in is very diverse. It is a limited number of black people, and we get along. So it was a surprise to me that there is that much hatred in 2011 coming from a microcosm of white people. And I'm trying as hard as I can not to make generalizations because of YouTube, which is not the whole world, but I realize those people come from the real world, and there are people who think like that. There are people who look at me and see nothing but an ape, a monkey, subhuman, not even worth dealing with, see me as ugly, not just because I'm black, because of my features, because of my hair. They just hate everything that is black. And after being treated that way, I think I'm well within my rights to feel equal amounts of dislike for the same people who feel that way about me. Um, Prior to coming on YouTube, I was the kumbaya hippie freak. Everybody, let's just get along and forget about all this race crap. But you can't forget about it. It exists, whether I want it to exist or not. I really wanted to shy away from race related topics. And if anybody knows anything about my background, when I started on YouTube, my name was Afrocentric Dime, and a lot of people took Afrocentric in the sense that I used it to mean I was down with the cause or the black conscious movement, and that was so far removed from my agenda or my personality. I came on here simply to listen to music. I stumbled across Sergeant Willie Pete's video nearly by accident, and he started a whole lot of race related comments, and I commented, and a lot of people became and on several of his counterparts videos, and people became interested in me, and that's the rest is history. But I did not set out to be a part of any race related club or mantra or anything in regards to race. I came up with my screen name because someone saw that I had double strand twists and said, I know you're Afrocentric, but that hairstyle is not in. And I didn't even know what Afrocentric was at that time. I was just so square and out of the loop in terms of movements that were going on, or that there were people who felt really strong about black pride. I was just not socialized around all of that. Yes, I had people around me proud to be black, but it just wasn't as with as much zeal as I'm seeing on YouTube. And it was a culture shock for me. When I put Afrocentric in my name before I changed it to the lovely Miss Dime, it was sarcasm. Like, don't assume because somebody wears natural hair that they're necessarily Afrocentric. I just didn't want perms anymore. It wasn't about wanting to preserve my blackness. I just didn't want my scalp to burn. I had bad experiences with perms. It wasn't anything about being conscious or socially aware. Like I said, that was not in my agenda at all, but interest changed as I became acquainted with people, and with my upbringing being so integrated, it's easy to get lost in terms of your own identity with your own race when you are intermingling so much with people if you don't have a strong sense of who you are. And I kind of dismissed a lot of what my grandparents were saying because I feel that they grew up in a different era, and it's so far removed from my experience. I can't talk like I grew up in the Jim Crow era, even though my roots are Southern and I am from the South. But I can't speak as though that was my direct experience when it hasn't been. Majority of my experience with white people has been good up until my interactions with YouTube. To be honest, in my interactions prior to young adulthood and adolescence, it seemed that white people treated me better. Seem like I was put on some sort of pedestal. They were the ones talking about how pretty I was, so complimentary and smart, and giving me all these accolades. Black people did it, but it was all but some just did it with a condescending, almost sarcastic tone, like you think you're better. And they labeled me as white girl in school and said that I wasn't black, and idiotically asked me if I was half white. Like a lot of the people that I came across in adolescence did not accept me, and I wasn't rejected for complexion or features by black or white males or any other males because I have dated outside of the race. I had one relationship outside of the race, and it was with a white male. And there was a time, as I said, where I was extremely attracted to white men, and it was a preference to be in an interracial relationship as opposed to being with a black male because of my generalizations, which I'm ashamed of, that I made because of a few bad experiences. And I do acknowledge that was poor thinking on my part, and it was not logical. It was not fair to good black men who don't treat white black women that way. And I just assumed because of my negative experiences that white was better. But in the situation that I found myself in, it ended up being worse or just as bad. And during that time, I was making YouTube videos, and I felt torn because I wanted to preserve this image of white people, but my interaction during that time up until our breakup was a positive one, but I think that his parents had a lot to do with it, because I don't think he had a problem with my race, complexion, or features, but I just don't think his parents wanted to see him at the end of the day with a black woman, and that was in 2010. And that was the first inkling that it may not be realistic for me to think that a white man would ultimately choose me. It's not because I don't think I can attract a white male, because I have, and men of other races. But I just don't know if a white male would ultimately pick me to be a bride. And it's not insecurity, it's just knowing how some white people were socialized, and that some white parents do not want to see them ultimately end up with a black person. And my objective in relationship is to let it be marriage bound, and some white families is not going to go down. And even if it does, there are going to be some relatives who would not accept that, and I wouldn't have that issue. In a black family, I know that I wouldn't be not chosen because of what race I am. It would be other reasons. And then if a white male chose me, I would think about, is he choosing me because there are images out there of us being sexually promiscuous and basically W's and stuff like that? Or does he just have that forbidden fruit fantasy? Or is he genuinely into black women? And I started to think that more in my interactions with YouTube, and it bothers me because I feel like if God sends me a white male, if that's who he wants me to end up with, ultimately at the end of the day, a white male would not have a fair chance. And I want to make a decision based on who the person is and my interaction with that person. It's not fair to make a generalization, but I do have to consider the fact that there are white people who don't want any part of black people, and they are entitled not to want to intermingle. There are black people who don't want to intermingle. And I am learning more about the ideology of those two groups. Like I said, maybe it was the area in which I grew up or the way I was socialized, but I was not exposed to all this race stuff. And honestly, it did get kind of annoying, but in a way I needed to be exposed because I was somewhat naive to what was going on in the real world. But I'm afraid because sometimes knowledge can be dangerous, and I don't want to be so obsessed with racial topics and obsessed with what trolls have to say that I would look at a white male and mistreat him simply because of what a troll said and not because of the interactions that I've had. But like I said, Swamp and Leaf were singing my praises until I decided to uplift a black male, which I think I should if he is an upstanding male, instead of turning my back on a black male and crawling up Swamp's tail or Leaf's tail, worshiping them as though they're better than a black man. They take pleasure in turning black men and women against each other, and I wasn't falling for it. I knew what the tactics were, and when you have intelligence and God gives you a brain and a nickel's worth of sense, you have an obligation to use it. And I wasn't going to be disloyal to a black male, Mega, that did not do anything to give me a reason to discredit him or go against him. If he was some lowlife and I found out that he was just spewing hate on YouTube, my support would have wavered. But as I've seen positive males talk, at first I just bought into the idea that Swamp was some sort of victim and black people were just harassing him. That's what he led me to believe. But as I started following his channel comments, I came to the conclusion that he was the instigator. So after that point, I sided with my friends who on YouTube, which the majority of them are black. It wasn't a racist issue, it was an issue of fact. And Swamp is an instigator on black people's pages. He makes it a point to harass, belittle, and try to intimidate, but unsuccessfully, black people. So knowing facts and being objective, I had to make a decision. And he took it as being racist. And that had nothing to do with racism. If facts are staring you in the face, you're not going to just ignore them simply because you want to be everybody's friend. That person was never my friend to begin with. All the while he was complimenting me, he was probably talking about me when I wasn't around and talking down about other black women and men. And now that I've come to that realization, I could make more informed decisions. And at first, I wasn't open and receptive to a lot of the information that some of my black YouTube friends were giving me because I thought that they were just obsessed with race and I didn't want to be bothered. But you need to be aware of what is going on in the world, and you can't see the world through rose-colored glasses. I would love for people of all races to be able to get along and coexist and intermingle and have friends over and stay the night at each other's house, work together and be treated as equals. But some people were socialized that black people are not equal, and some people were socialized that you don't consort with white people, don't trust white people, and they are not for you. And I can't stop those opinions just because I want us to get along. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying at all. I am not justifying Swamp's behavior or throwing all white people under the bus because of Swamp, but I'm just acknowledging the beliefs that are out there, and I didn't want to see it because I wanted to live in an idealistic world as opposed to the real world. And I am ashamed for turning a deaf ear to stuff and not heeding warnings sooner that black people gave me and white people. Thank you, Chip. You are a lovely person. About even Dollar Boy gave me a warning, but I didn't want to hear it because I was on this kumbaya journey and it came back to bite me in the tail. But I know better now, and for that I'm thankful. And to my black kings, I have just done a 360. I see myself for who I am because of the support of positive black men like Grizzly, like Dollar Boy, like Master Tactics, 215, Work Hard, Evans 1, New World, Rob, Wake Up World. Gosh, there's so many people. Jamash, Mega Zeitgeist. There are just so many examples of Army 2K. There's Digimo. There's so many examples of exceptional black men on here. And when you are integrated, as I was saying, so integrated, you tend to lose unless you have a strong sense of identity, your sense of self. Because if you're not socialized around a lot of black people other than your family, and you're not exposed to black culture other than Black History Month, you don't have a real sense of who you are. And I'm grateful to have been put in contact with other black people who know who they are. And because they know who they are, they can exude pride in themselves. And on here, this is the first time in in um in this capacity that I've been called things like Ebony Princess, Black Queen, and just being celebrated just for being a black woman, because it was not displayed to that magnitude outside of YouTube. So it was like a culture shock. And I was like, I didn't know that there were black men out there that passionate about uplifting black women. And that did something for my self-esteem. You young men, Mega, Grizzly, Digimo, so many other people, Master Tactics, 215 Work Hard, some of the names that I mentioned, Nat Turner is Live. A lot of you have made such an indelible impression on my life, and I carry that with me every single day. Universal Moore, he has been a driving force in my life, and because of a lot of his comments to me, I feel like my self-esteem is just getting elevated, because now I know that there is hope. There are black men who view and will treat black women as queens, and I don't have to run to a white man for refuge, because there are black men who will stand up and defend a positive black woman at all costs, as demonstrated by Grizzly, Digimo, and Mega, and some other people. And for that, I am proud. I hold my head up high, because in a long time, other than members of my family and in church, I have not seen examples of this black unity in this magnitude except on YouTube. I am so just floored by the love and the support. I don't care anything about these Uncle Tom porch monkeys that want to diss my features and say that it's masculine, or it's ugly because it's broad. Broad features are just family traits. Most women in my family have broad, wide noses, and none of them look masculine. That is just a family trait. And I was not socialized to believe that. And I was surprised that black men felt that way in mass number on YouTube, because issues about my complexion, which I do not consider myself all that dark, maybe in the middle of the spectrum, you probably can't get a clear indication of my complexion from the webcam, but it is clearly lighter than in my previous videos, because it's better quality. By no means am I saying I'm fair skinned, but I'm saying I'm not a Grace Jones, I'm not a Jill Marie Jones, I'm not, and they are beautiful women, and I'm not a Whoopi Goldberg. I'm just not. I might have broad features, but I don't fall in that category as far as complexion is concerned. And my features have never stopped me from dating, or my choice of hair has never stopped me from being with the man I wanted to be with. And when even men outside of my race were attracted to what I look like. So I was shocked to hear things like even men outside the race don't want to deal with black women, and black women were considered the least attractive of all the races, this is foreign to me, other than in comparison to the experiences I've had in real life. And I just can't let YouTube define that. And on another positive note, like I said, I didn't have a lot of interactions with African American females because most of the time in my classes, because I took honors classes majority of the time in my life and I was around gifted kids, you could probably count the black people in the classes on one hand. And the activities that I went to as a kid, not a lot of black people attended. So I was around white and white, Hispanic, Asian, and people of other races. And although we were friends, we didn't have a sisterhood bond. And it wasn't until I came on YouTube that now I have that in mass number, with women like She's Locked Up, One Saucy Bee, Sharon 326, and the Afro Queen. And I think that my relationship with the Afro Queen is exceptional because she is like a mother figure. And it takes a village to raise a child. And no, she cannot replace my natural biological mother, but she is a mother to me. And I think that that is making such a difference in my development. Same holds true for Grizzly. My father died when I was very young, 3 years old. But I always had uncles, my granddad, positive males around me, so I never felt that missing dad complex. But he has taken on a father role, and other positive black males who are fathers, or surrogate fathers, have taken that interest in me, and it has changed me for the better. Thank you for letting me know who I am and helping me discover my identity. Another person, Treasury 11111 Treasury, girl, you mean so much to me. I don't think you realize to what capacity you've impacted my life, because as I said, I don't have biological siblings, and my interaction with African American females has been limited up until this point. And to just have conversations about black hair, black products, and just to have not only that sister bond, but that sister bond. I hope I pronounced it right. I just don't like saying it because it's not grammatically correct. But anyway, you get the point. Not only bond as females, but bond as black women, and that's valuable to me. I've been affected in such positive ways. And for my black Nubian kings, if I could combine you all into one man, I pray I will get on my knees and pray every chance I get to find a man that's half of what Digimo, Mega, Grizzly, Universal Moore, so many of you are on YouTube. I pray that my husband has qualities like you all. Please don't take things out of context, but I'm displaying agape love, and I will always stand up for black men who exhibit such qualities. And it's not worship, it's just giving credit where credit is due, because there's enough negativity, enough gender war between black men and black women going on YouTube, and I would rather uplift black men than tear them down. Well, anyway, this has been a very long video, and people are like, why is she airing, probably like, why is she airing her dirty laundry on YouTube? I think it's a good thing to be vulnerable and to be honest and to celebrate truth. Well, I hope you all receive this message the way it was intended to be received. And I really don't intend to offend anybody, but after this, I may have to take a hiatus from recording so I can make sure that the decisions that I make are in keeping with my principles. And I'm not pleased with my behavior because I was reduced to using obscenities, and I really don't talk that way. Even though I just gave the first letter of the word, I don't really like using that language because it sets a poor example for women and younger women. And I don't know who that is younger is watching my videos, and I take my responsibility as a figure on YouTube and as a young woman seriously. And there may be a young lady watching me that looks up to me, and I don't apologize for what I said, but I do apologize for the manner in which I spoke, because even though it's on YouTube, even though you people don't know me personally, I still have the bar set high because I know how I was raised. I know what appropriate behavior is, and that is what I'm going to stand by. Well, anyway, this has probably dragged on too long. I hope you all have a great day. Bye bye.